Hi, everyone. This is Ed Amoroso, and welcome back to Tag Talk. Today, I want to talk to you about a company called Palo Alto Networks, as if I have to explain that company to many of you. But I want to give you some insight into my experience with Palo, a little bit about what I think their prospects are, and maybe even a little bit of history, because it's a company that I really admire. It's one that, quite frankly, I have a hard time finding much I don't like about. Let me start with some of the principles there. Essentially the brains behind Palo Alto Networks is Nir Zuck. And he's been very kind with his time to my team at TAG. Whenever we need time, he makes time and shares with us his insights. And man, I feel like I should get continuing education credits when I meet with him. So he's amazing. And also on their board, just an amazing board. My supervisor at AT&T for almost a decade, John Donovan, is on their board. So they've got amazing people there, and I should expose my bias in saying that, I have great admiration here. Let's talk about some of the things that they, I think, basically invented, and then we will get to some of the challenges that I think they have. I mean, this is not going to be 100% smooth sailing here as we go through our discussion of Palo, but they invented a concept that I think we take for granted now called platformization. It's a noun made into a different noun, I guess. But it's this idea that you take an idea, you take this idea that we could go from firewalls to these next gen firewalls that embedded into them the capability to do intrusion detection, intrusion prevention, and some other things, and build that as a base on which you can then innovate. And just amazing idea. We take it for granted now, but they built this sort of, you can call it sort of an NGFW, or next gen firewall capability. From that, they were able to derive cloud security, which we knew as Prisma. And, I think they've renamed that to Cortex or something at this point. And from there, they were able to get into the SASE business, which was just a natural progression from the base capability, which was a platform, into things that they could build on top of that. I love the idea. They've executed it perfectly. It's like a master class in how you go about doing this type of thing. So that said, I think it's very difficult, as I said, to find much that you can't really gush about with Palo Alto Networks, but let me see if I can give a little bit of insight into what I think will be some of their challenges. Now, the first has nothing to do really with the platform, but it has more to do with the current industry. And that's that cybersecurity right now is not really a growth industry anymore. And Palo, their timing was perfect. They grew up at a time when budgets were increasing and the excitement was turned up to 10 and the need was turned up to 10, and Palo hit that market at a time that I just couldn't pick a better timing than they did. So I give them every credit in the world for that. So that idea that you had sort of this timing is is no longer really the case at this point. I think because cybersecurity is not a growth industry, the question now becomes, how do we shift from CISO economics to CIO economics? I think they can do it. I think they have the right executive team there. But look, it's different. It's a different game now. They're no longer kind of selling to companies that have unlimited budgets or growing budgets. They're selling to companies that have to contract their budget. That is a big difference. So that's number one. Number two is AI. I mean, AI is a big wild card here. So take SASE, for example. I've written pretty extensively about my belief that just as SASE disrupted MPLS, and MPLS in turn had disrupted earlier forms of circuit switched and even IP communication, I think AI control of a network, sort of this idea of an agentic AI controller sitting in cloud making decisions about your network, that is going to disrupt SASE. There's just no question about it. So what does that mean for Palo? It's not exactly back to square one, because it's a great company with great people, a great product, great reputation. They've got, in a sense, they're already on third base here, but they're not all the way home. And there are a lot of other companies that are really going to be challenging them in this area of agentic control of enterprise networks. I wouldn't bet against this company, but again, the game is still going. It's not like this is over. So I think moving forward, we'll watch very carefully to see if the next, say, 20 years for Palo can mirror the amazing 20 years they've had. I'll give you a little insight here. At TAG, we rate vendors. We do it for enterprise teams, for insurance companies. We provide numeric ratings that are done based on our insight into the company and personal connection, and really getting some sense from users around the effectiveness of the vendor. Palo is the highest rated vendor in our entire taxonomy of all the 4,700 vendors that we deal with. It just worked out that numerically they have the highest rating. And so, Palo, if you're watching, that is the result, of our analysis. Now, whether that'll be true for the next 20 years, I have no idea. I remember writing to John Donovan saying, "What an amazing 20 years." And I showed him the report that we're working on. And he said, "Well, we're going to have another great 20 years." And I'm sure that that's certainly the plan, but we'll have to see. So, look, we've written a report on Palo Alto Networks. I hope you'll download it from our website. It's something I put a lot of time into. It's got a lot of detail in there, and you'll have to let me know what you think. And in the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you on our next discussion.